And welcome into the Wednesday edition. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Wednesday morning. We are presented by Green Ventures Landscaping, outdoor patios, landscaping design, lawn maintenance, and more. Check them out at greenventureslandscaping.com. Taking your thoughts all show long, 615-737-1025. Live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. Joe Rexrode, good morning. How we doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Do you ever do those lat pull downs?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I might have torn my labrum.
How many times does Rexrode go to the gym where he comes home with some debilitating injury? It's the opposite of what's supposed to be happening here, Joe.
Well, but when you're falling apart like a stewed chicken, maybe the workouts need to be a little bit more, geriatric, a little more like.
You think you're like Sylvester Stallone in the 80s just pumping everything that's around?
I mean, I'm just doing regular lifting. It's like I'm gonna have to start doing you get in like little group things. Like you put your left foot in, you put your left, and you're like hokey pokey with some elderly folks, man. I don't know.
It's like one of those spin classes. My wife loves them.
Okay, yeah. Those look intense though, man.
Yeah.
Like you walk by the room and it's like, geez, they're like going hard now. I don't want to mess with that. I was wrong about my whatever PCL tear, I think, right? Like it feels fine now. So I'm hoping this, but dude, like I can't have my right shoulder, be messed up and need surgery, man, because I freaking, put it on number 10 on the lat pull down and tried to do it was at number 11. And I tried to do 10 reps, whatever the hell that is. I don't even know what that is. How much weight that is. I don't know. All I know is I'm pathetic. Other than that, doing great.
Ian, how we doing? What's going on?
Good morning. Maybe some jazzercise in the future here.
There you
for
go.
Joe. Yeah, that's that one's pretty good. That it's relaxing.
In the pool?
Yeah, pool would be even better, honestly.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, doing good.
Here comes the beach ball.
But doing just fine, thanks. Yeah, got some more rain last night. Hope everybody was safe, not too stormy, I don't think, compared to the other night. So happy Wednesday, folks.
I can see it now. Rexrode working out with a Richard Simmons video in front of him. He's ready to go. Good stuff.
That reminds me of the Nutty Professor. I'm a pony.
Well, Joe, this is one of those days where we could probably do 6-hour show. We have all the stuff going on with Chad Brinker, which we'll get into here in just a few minutes. There's still some NFL draft fallout. Dave Ziggler talked yesterday for the Titans. We got Kuharski coming in later. Diego Pavia ended up on the Baltimore Ravens and is now signed a 3-year deal with the Ravens. We also have the Stanley Cup playoffs going on, the NBA playoffs going on, and it looks like the NCAA tournament expansion is definitely going to happen now. So is there anything I've missed as we get launched today here on the show? It's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on. And yes, the last thing there may have to be addressed at 7:45 again.
I figured it might. We got a lot going on the show today. Kuharski will be with us in the second half of the program, and we will get into all things Titans with him, from the stepping down of Chad Brinker to the press conferences yesterday to what happened in the draft. A whole lot of stuff to get into with PK a little bit later in the program. But, Joe, that's where we'll start. Chad Brinker leaving the organization. He is stepping down as president of football operations for the Tennessee Titans. They put that statement out last night. I will read part of it from Chad Brinker, who said, quote, "It's been an honor to serve as the president of football operations of the Titans. Over the years, I've understood and embraced my role as the leader of football strategy. But as I've spent less time in personnel, I have a renewed conviction that it is time to return to what I love and move towards my next chapter. I'm grateful for Amy's understanding in my decision for allowing me to pursue other opportunities." He goes on to talk about being proud of the work that they've done, and not the least of which was last year's GM search and all those things. But Chad Brinker is now out with the Tennessee Titans. I mean, Joe, this comes not that long after there was basically, as we discussed on the show at the time, a power restructure again with Borgonzi kind of feeling like he was promoted over Chad Brinker. And here we are a few months later, and Brinker is out. So, Joe, we'll just start with you. What is your reaction to Chad Brinker leaving the Tennessee Titans?
Yeah, look, I mean, you look at the whole thing, and it just, I think Chad Brinker is the classic example of someone getting quote unquote kicked upstairs. You know, in a football team, you know, in any sort of business corporate situation, what he came here to do, what he likes to do is personnel. He was obviously all phases of that in Green Bay. He gets brought in by Rand Carthon, and then you know, he gets elevated. It seems like a lot of the stuff that happened to him. Well, first of all, everything that happens, of course, you could tie back to Amy Adams Strunk. And when it comes down to it, she liked him a lot. She ends up firing the guy who hires him, promoting him. But then, excuse me, that must be my shoulder affecting my throat here. But in the meantime, I don't know if you could look at this as, I've seen some NFL people talk about like losing a power struggle, like Greg Rosenthal, and I don't know him at all, but I saw that he said, you know, put something like that, you know, loses his power struggle with Mike Borgonzi. I mean, I don't think that's what this is. I'm very interested to hear Paul Kuharsky's take later. I think what it is he lost the power struggle with Amy's instincts, who said, okay, you go up there, you're in charge of that. You know what? I want Mike to be totally in charge of personnel. You deal with all the other stuff, Chad. But you still have this amazing title and the money and all that stuff. But the personnel stuff, you're out of that. He's on that. And maybe, you know, listen, if things go well here moving forward, that may prove to be good instincts by Amy Adams Strunk. But to me, it's just, he has been moved up and over and around at her whims, and is like, I want to do personnel. That's what he's spent his whole career doing, so he's leaving to do it. I think it's as simple as that. I don't know that for sure. Maybe there's some underlying thing here that I'm not aware of, but again, I'll be interested to hear what Paul says.
Well, the timing is interesting, right? I mean, it comes right after the draft. So this is, I think the way I read it, Joe, is this is something maybe that's been in the works for a little bit, at least from maybe his side of things, and that they get through the draft. And now that they're through the draft, they've found the time to execute this. So
exactly,
it kind of feels like this has been coming for a while. Now, I will say, like I said, you know, it wasn't that long ago where we were having conversations with Charles Robinson in the latter part of Rand Carthon's tenure, which were basically, Joe, you know, when I talk to teams around the league, they're dealing with Chad. They're not really dealing with Rand, right? That's what Charles said on our show. And we spent a lot of time talking about that. And then Borgonzi comes in and they're doing all these joint press conferences. And it's like, oh, let's get Chad up there and do the press conference. Remember the one where after they'd fired Brian Callahan, I think it was probably the last one where we saw where it was both of them up there together. And you could tell in that press conference, Joe, like it got a little uncomfortable for Brinker, right? Like some of the questions were like, basically, I mean, you've been here through all this and it ain't going very well. Like, what do you think about all this? And then not that long after that, as they, you know, delving through the Brian Callahan stuff, Mike McCoy's the interim head coach, and they finally mercifully get to the end of last season. You know, they come out with this, I guess what I would term again is restructuring again, right? Which is just Borgonzi's now in charge of the entire roster, the football operations and all those things. And Brinker's doing this other stuff. And it did kind of feel at the time like it was like, all right, we're trying to distance ourselves a little bit from Brinker on the football side of things. They didn't fire him, obviously, and he's hanging around. But it is interesting that just a few months later, he decides to go at that point. So, like, I guess I don't, you know, I don't know what power struggle that Rosenthal's talking about. Like, I don't think that, you know, Brinker and Borgonzi were on the draft meeting room just like yelling at each other about what they were going to do. But I guess if you want to look at it long term, I mean, he did kind of lose a power struggle in terms of it just didn't have much to do with the roster at all anymore. And it all became Borgonzi.
Right. Like he was obviously, he was adamant before all that happened, right? That like Mike's going to be the one. But when it came down to it, he was still involved in personnel. And if need be, like who had the last call, like if it came down to it, you know, he was perceived as the guy in charge. that statement in January basically said, like, he's just on this side now.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and again, so, I mean, I read his statement and everything. I've seen that Nick Suss has some reporting that he has in the Tennessean. Again, we'll be interested to see what Kuharsky says. But I mean, I think it's as simple as he wants to do personnel. And I can't really blame like a football guy who I'm sure it's been great to be promoted and the money that's come with it and everything. But like, I mean, he's built his whole career here, mostly in Green Bay, working on these different models with injuries, stuff like that, but also just being involved in selecting players. I mean, that's right. Like, that's probably the fun part of the job for people here. So, I think that when that happened, again, then it's like, was it, was that like a shock to him when she did that back then?
Well,
Or was the writing on the wall? Was there a struggle at some point back then? I don't know. I do know. Let me read this. This is Jonathan Jones from CBS, one of my favorite NFL reporters, not named Charles Robinson. Since December of 22, the Titans have fired John Robinson, hired Rand Carthon, fired Mike Vrabel, hired Brian Callahan, fired Rand Carthon, promoted Chad Brinker, hired Mike Borgonzi, fired Brian Callahan, hired Robert Saleh, and seen Chad Brinker resign.
Yeah.
Woo-wee.
Well,
that's a lot of stuff.
That's a lot of stuff, and we're gonna, get into with Kuharsky. He's got something up today at his website, and the title says "Titans pattern of shifting power on display again" with Chad Brinker's exit, and that's what it is. I mean, and again, this one, it's not a firing, at least not technically a firing, but it is another Titans higher up that is now out the door. So we'll take your reaction to that. Chad Brinker is leaving the Titans organization. Take your thoughts on that. 615-737-1025, our phone number. We got a whole lot to get into on this coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Today, the Nashville Sounds taking on Norfolk at First Horizon Park. First pitch at 6:35. Catch all the action on 94.9 The Fan, presented by Family Leisure and Social Cantina. Taking your thoughts on Chad Brinker stepping down from the Tennessee Titans at 615-737-1025. Skyler says, I'm still so confused with Chad Brinker. The entire thing has fallen apart ever since I've heard the name Chad Brinker. I could not care less. Get him the hell out of the state of Tennessee. It's from Skyler.
Jeez.
On the text line. Oh, boy.
Aggressive Skyler.
Yes, aggressive Skyler. Logan says, I don't want him touching my football team. This is – I found this, Joe, this is from January of 2025. So really not that long ago. It's a year and a half ago at this point. And this is, after Callahan's first season, Carthon gets fired, and they're going to look for another general manager, okay? And I'm reading this from paulkuharsky.com. I'll just read a couple of graphs for you. It says, so why doesn't the Titans president of football operations, Chad Brinker, a role that was created last year, just simply become the team's general manager as the team moves on from firing Grant Carthon Tuesday? He and Callahan would certainly be aligned. Brinker said that things have developed and are simply too big in an NFL front office now for one person to take on everything anymore. Quote, we need a general manager. The general manager of the 1990s is not what it is now. This thing has grown. It's huge. There are a lot of different things going on, but at the heart of it all is player acquisition and then coaching. It's a very, very important job, just like the head coach. There are two key positions in the football program. He went on to say, this is a real general manager's job, but I've got final authority on all football-related matters. So I remember talking about that at the time, being like, okay, what does all that mean? So I guess my question in the aftermath of this, Joe, is that, the Titans have operated. There's one line in there that kind of stands out to me. The general manager in the NFL has become a job that, in Brinker's words, is just too big for one person to handle now with everything that goes in it. So, are the Titans going to go hire another president of football operations now to replace Brinker? Or is this Mike Borgonzi just taking a hold of all of it now? And the real answer is, okay, well, it was maybe too big for Rand Carthon and Chad Brinker to handle all of it at the same time, but it's not really that big for Mike Borgonzi, or, by the way, a whole lot of these other organizations around the league to do it. I'm very interested to see how this goes.
I'd be shocked if the second thing is what happens. I think they'll definitely hire someone. Again, I think a lot of organizations have.
Well, the good news for them is they got 75 people in their organization internally to choose from.
Yeah, well, right, yeah. Well, that's the thing too. It's like you said, on the personnel side, they have all these guys. I mean, it's just look around in sports. It's geez, so college football teams, they have 19 football assistants now, and now you have 5-6 full-time assistants in college basketball, and it's just more and more people doing everything. But I do think that, I think most teams have some, whatever the title is, that oversees the administrative stuff, right? I think that. So my read on everything you read is Chad Brinker got kind of kicked upstairs. So now you're in charge of the whole operation. But in his mind, it was still okay. I like the promotion, great, and all that stuff. But I'm still touching personnel. I'm still over all of it. So just at least I'm in the conversations, and I'm going to let the GM do the job. But I ultimately, if there's something that I think is just really off, I still have that authority. And then he lost it, right? Yeah. And then basically he didn't just lose it. He was like, you just all of the other stuff, which, so again, is that, and I'm interested to see, if Kuharski agrees with that, or, whatever his reporting and his read is on this. But I think this has been a long time coming, probably. And to the point, you mentioned last time at the timing. Remember when John Robinson got fired? All those guys stayed, and it was well, they're gonna, because you have to go through the process, stay through the draft, and then go. Now, not that I guess Brinker didn't necessarily have to, because if he's not tied to personnel, what the heck was he doing, right? But it makes sense. These moves, whatever they are in the front office, almost always happen right after the draft.
One thing that is clear to me, you may disagree with this, we'll see, but regardless of how they get there, and I think it's been differing circumstances, whether you want to go back to the Carthon firing or Vrabel or all, it's a pattern. We've talked about this pattern before, and this is another iteration of it, and maybe it's not the same. But the pattern in this organization, the past, 5-6 years for sure, and there's been a lot of losing that goes along with this. So you got to factor that in. If they start winning, I would hope it's going to be different moving forward. But the pattern seems to be, there's somebody that has Amy Adams Strunk's full trust, right? There's full trust for about a year, right? For about a year and a half. And then all of a sudden that trust starts to fade, and either they get fired or they get rearranged, and then her trust goes to somebody else, right? Like, it's Vrabel. Vrabel, we got a great football coach. We got one of the best football coaches in the league. And then all of a sudden, Vrabel starts to go off the rails, and it goes to New England, does the stuff. They start losing games. It's like, well, we got Rand. Rand's our guy. And then, well, we got Chad, and Chad's our guy. Yeah, like she has full trust in somebody for like about a year, Joe. And then the season comes around. Things don't go exactly the way you hope they would go. And it feels like either somebody's got to get blamed for it or the trust shifts. And now it's in Borgonzi to the point where it feels like it's almost Groundhog Day with this conversation, with how often it's happened over the last few years. But, Joe, one of the things I woke up this morning thinking was, well, if this doesn't change relatively quickly here with the Titans, you know who's going to be next? Borgonzi. He's up in the pecking order now with the way that this has gone.
You're up, Mike. You're up. Yeah. Well, and I think it's like falling out of favor. Obviously, there's different circumstances around some of those, but you're right. It's still a pattern. It's a very clear pattern. It's a pattern of rising to favor and then falling out of favor. And I think one thing here, it's interesting because with the Brinker kind of moving, you go away from personnel, do all that other stuff. It's like, was Brinker partially, like, was there still some blame for him, given that, as we said a million times, he was a part of all those bad Rand Carthon decisions, right? Or maybe it's an or is this a case of Borgonzi comes in and presses the heck out of him? Okay, that's my guy, It's probably some combination of those things.
That feels
but
exactly
now,
like
yes,
what we're talking about with
Mike.
Brinker, right? Like, it feels like, well, was this Carthon doing a bad job, or did Brinker just come in and she's like, man, yeah, Chad is one of the smartest people I think I've ever seen around the organization. We just got to make sure we promote him and put him in charge. Never mind the fact the football team's gone to hell ever since he walked through the door around here. We got to promote him.
Yep. Someone's got, again, right? Someone rises to favor. And so, again, when it's winning, when it's good football, it's like everybody's awesome. Everything's awesome. Everybody, promotions, extensions, raises, yay. And then if the football goes bad, and it's like, someone has to be the fall guy. Someone has to take the blame. But then also it's like someone rises up here. Rand's so impressive. We got to hire him. Vrabel said he's not ready to be a GM, Rand, et cetera, on and on. And then, so now here we are with Mike Borgonzi. It's all, it has been like, it's been clear, like, this is his team. Like, he is putting together the team. We've stopped talking about Chad Brinker, right? So now it's like, and, like Jared Springer on the YouTube chat is like, if this wasn't the Titans, this would be bigger news. I disagree. The NFL doesn't care about stuff like this. This town does. And maybe some, like, again, Jonathan Jones, I cited, just looking at the overall, like, oh, God, more upheaval in Tennessee, I guess, from that perspective. But in a vacuum, this move is not a newsmaker in the NFL.
Well, and let me be clear. I also, like, I'm not worried about this having some adverse effect on the Titans. Like, from the larger standpoint of the pattern of just continued upheaval here, we've been talking about that for years at this point. It ain't gone very well with Chad Brinker around here. And look, I understand, Chad Brinker, I'm sure that there's things that he does very well. And my guess is he probably ends up back in Green Bay in some sort of function or capacity. That's my guess, sister, or maybe Miami, down there with John Eric Sullivan and all these different guys. We'll see what that looks like. But I'm not shedding any tears over Chad Brinker being gone from the Titans. Like, regardless of his role in personnel and how deep it was involved or what he was doing now, the bottom line is, since he's been here, the football team's been very bad. And he's not to blame for all of that. he probably is to blame for some of that, and I'm not shedding any tears that he's gone.
I agree with you, but I also agree with Ed on the text line driven by WilsonCountyHoney.com, who says if Borgonzi turns out to be successful, then for all Brinker gets blamed for, he should deserve credit for that hire at least. And you know what, Ed? Rand Carthon would deserve credit for the previous hire too. How about that?
Yeah, there we go.
Mind blown.
It always goes back.
And then Amy gets credit for hiring Rand.
That's right.
Everything is
back.
awesome.
That's right. 615-737-1025, our phone number. More of your reaction to Chad Brinker leaving the Titans organization coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Taking your thoughts at 615-737-1025. Chad Brinker stepping down from the Titans organization, and your reaction to that. Joe, so far I've summed up the reaction this way. Not a lot of people sad to see Chad Brinker gone would be the way that I would put it.
No, I mean, I think Chad Brinker has kind of been a symbol of, well, obviously the rant thing didn't work out. He survives. Everybody's like, well, why did he survive? People were obviously very upset about Vrabel being fired. And now I know now maybe people look at it like, well, a little bit different take on that. Although it's still, I mean, you go back to that time, to me, that doesn't change anything about the decision making at the time or anything. But I'm just saying, maybe now it's viewed a little differently. But then you go through everything, and look, I think, especially like some of the, like the Brinker Borgonzi combo, they had a couple of those pressers where it's like, this shouldn't, let's make this real simple. And they did. And I mean, I think that they did the right thing in making, putting Borgonzi in charge of the team, making him just the clear GM, and that's that. And I've looked at Brinker since then, since the, whatever you want to call it, I guess it's a demotion, or it's certainly another changing, again, it's a whatever demotion, a demotion upstairs, whatever you want to call it. But I've kind of looked at him like the Steve Underwood of the Titans, right?
Yep.
Now a lot of people would say, well, he was great at his job. I'm just saying, like,
way
that's
less impressive of a stash, but yeah.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, he would never even try, nor would I, to try to match that stash. But that's in some way, the structure is different. I mean, Kuharsky could probably lay out a lot of ways that, like, the roles are very different, and Underwood was a big part of their success for a long time and all that stuff. I'm just saying that's sort of the idea. And again, people like that really don't. I mean, their biggest function is making the decisions on the GM. Right? Bringing in the people. And again, Brinker did bring in Borgonzi. So Borgonzi, I mean, Ed's right. If Borgonzi's good and they're going to be a good football team moving forward, well, I mean, he does have to get credit for that. And Rand does have to get credit for bringing him in to bring in Borgonzi.
I want to read this.
It's all looking great.
It's all looking great. I do want to read this because this is, I think, the larger point. And this is from Kuharsky at paulkuharski.com. Even if it's a good move for the franchise, it continues an odd cycle. Rand Carthon hired Brinker, who overtook him in the power structure and then saw Carthon fired. Brinker hired Borgonzi, who surpassed him in power and now watches Brinker leave. It's a hopscotch that makes the franchise appear wobbly. It also gives us cause to doubt the Titans are spelling things out honestly when it comes to office politics with their highest ranking people and a 7:24 p.m. Tuesday evening press release. We should keep an eye on Reggie McKenzie, one of the top 3 people in personnel whose title is vice president / football advisor. He's most closely tied to Brinker. So it will be interesting to see if he becomes a Titans guy valued by Borgonzi or if he might move on as well. This is what Kuharsky had to say. But yeah, like the hopscotch that makes the franchise appear wobbly. It is kind of amazing when you lay it out that way of, Carthon hired Brinker, and then Brinker basically immediately overtook him in the power structure, and Carthon gets fired. Brinker hired Borgonzi, and then less than a year later, Borgonzi has completely overtaken him in the power structure, and now Brinker is gone. It's a interesting cycle they're in.
Yeah, and it's instability, and it speaks mostly just to at the top indecision and bad decisions and more decision. Again, maybe you've stumbled upon something here where the football team's going to be good. You got a good football guy making you a good football team, and all the other stuff is like whatever. No one cares. And that's my thing. It's like, in the context of what Kuharsky is laying out there, the upheaval and everything, it's somewhat interesting in the NFL, but it really, like, this isn't a big story because it's not someone who's doing the player stuff. Now, he did previously, which again, that just speaks to the dysfunction. So now, who replaces him? That's an interesting point on McKenzie. How important is this hire? I mean, to me, it's like, if you're going to have the structure the way it is, like I don't really think the general public, the Titans fan, cares if the security cameras are properly angled in the building and whatever else. I mean, it's now other than, is that going to be the person who, if Amy decides, if it goes bad and Borgonzi's out, is the person replacing Brinker that the person who's hiring Borgonzi's replacement? We may as well start talking about that, because until the cycle ends, the cycle just continues at a rapid rate.
Oh, and the thing about all this is, like, this is kind of thrown in the middle of what I do think. I mean, objectively, I do feel like there's a lot to be hopeful about if you're a Titans fan moving forward right now, right? Like, you've got a second-year quarterback that by no means was great last year, but showed you some things throughout the course of a season, and particularly, I think, got better in the second half of the year. You just drafted a receiver 4th overall, and we've talked about, what's going to have to come with that in terms of his production. But it's exciting, right? Like, you've got a 1st overall pick at quarterback, you've got a 4th overall pick at wide receiver. You have a coaching staff now that I would term is, at least you feel like you got some adults in the room, right? Like, it's like some guys that, to very differing degrees, on the offensive side of the ball, on the defensive side of the ball, have proven to be good coaches. Now, have not proven to be good head coaches yet. And that's going to be interesting to see if Saleh can do that and stop too. But I guess my point is, there's a lot right now that you can point to if you're a Titans fan to say, I'm hopeful about this. Like, I feel like, the organization is coming up, and I don't think this changes that, right? Like, I don't think the Brinker thing changes it, but it is a reminder of kind of where they've been and why they've been as poor as they've been over the last 5 years when it comes to just the dregs of the NFL. Like, somebody put it out there earlier, going back to, Saleh's excuses with the Jets, because, hey, it's the Jets, and everybody across the NFL goes, yeah, it's the Jets. What do you expect somebody to do there? Well, like, the last 5-6 years, you've been the Jets, and this is kind of the reminder of that.
Yeah, maybe I'm wrong with Saleh, like that if it doesn't work that he has to be a DC. He needs to be like, it was the Titans. It was the Jets. It was the Titans.
Saleh's like, I'm not taking another head coaching job unless it's like, the Steelers or the Cowboys. Or maybe the Cowboys aren't a great example. The Chiefs, wherever.
Niners. Go back to the Niners.
Yeah.
No, you're right. It's like, it's a time of hope. And look, for all franchises to some extent, that's what the offseason is. But there's some things to look at and say, okay, maybe it's going to start getting better. And then it's like a big splash of cold water. Don't forget, you're still the Titans, and there's still weird stuff that's going to happen, and someone's leaving, and someone's getting promoted, and someone's getting demoted, and someone's getting fired, and the person in charge is very questionable in terms of actually having a grasp on things that need to be done.
Joe, did you see this tweet from PK last night? He said the Titans have said over and over the football side's too big for a GM to run. With Chad Brinker leaving, I wonder if room is being created for Bryce Wasserman. He is chief of staff and football operations and is Amy Adams Strunk's son-in-law. So what do you make of that?
Well, yes. I mean, I thought of that too. And the thing about that is, it's like, it probably makes sense. It might be a good move, but publicly, it's like I've said before with like the idea of, especially years ago when David Poyle was still GM, and this idea that maybe Brian Poyle could be the next GM. I've said it on a show. He might be the greatest GM in the history, have the keenest eye for personnel in hockey in the history of the game. But there's just going to be an issue publicly because of who he is. Yep. Like, you're just starting with that. And so in terms of optics, that's a terrible idea. In terms of optics, it's a terrible idea. It might be the right move. I don't know. That's another thing I'm interested to ask Kuharsky about, to elaborate on that. But it's a bad move optically. But again, it's also, even with that, do you ever, like, does the football get better? Like, if the football gets better, no one gives a crap.
Exactly.
If it doesn't, then there's just another example of, so now you made this huge deal. You brought this guy over, you promoted him, then you moved him, and then your son-in-law pops in there to, tell everybody that job isn't that important. Again, this is what people say if the football doesn't get better. If it gets better, then we all forget about it.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. More your reaction to Chad Brinker stepping down from the Titans. We've talked about Mike Borgonzi. Well, there's a scenario thrown out there yesterday that might not bode well for Mike Borgonzi. We'll get into that coming up next as well. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Taking your thoughts at 615-737-1025. Our football offseason coverage brought to you by Tennessee Brew Works, finely tuned craft beer for finely tuned fans. Tennessee Brew Works, official craft beer of offseason coverage here on 102.5 The Game. Joe, we've talked about Brinker stepping down from the Titans organization. We'll continue to take your thoughts on that. PK will be with us in the second half of the program, and I'm very interested to see what PK has to say on this subject. We talked about, this pattern. If it continues, I guess Borgonzi's next in line here if things don't improve. Well, I'll present a scenario to you, Joe Rexrode, that wouldn't bode well, I don't think, for Mike Borgonzi. And that was, the way too early 2027 NFL mock draft that Brugler put out there. Now, keep in mind, not that this really means anything, but it is interesting. I think Brugler did this exercise last year where he did the way too early mock draft for 2026. And in that exercise, he had the Titans picking 4th. And that's where the Titans ended up picking.
So, do you remember who he had them then picking?
I don't. It was not Cornell Tate. I do remember that. But I don't remember who was there. I can go find it though.
Yeah. Well, and by the way, he puts this disclaimer in the thing. The order, because I've seen a lot of Titans fans say, well, everybody thinks we're going to suck again. The order, at least for him, is just based on Vegas odds.
Yeah.
So he's not predicting records along with this. He's just going by Vegas odds all the way down to 32, which I guess means that the Rams are the Super Bowl favorite.
I guess so.
Ty Simpson's going to come in and build a 2 QB system. It's going to be amazing.
But according to the Vegas odds / Brugler's 2027 look ahead, he's got the Titans picking 5th in next year's draft. I'm here to tell you right now, Joe. That is technically improvement. If they're picking 5th in next year's draft, that's going to be a problem. I'm not saying they got to pick, 22nd in next year's draft. But 5th, if you're talking about another top 5 pick for the 3rd year in a row, that's a big issue for the Tennessee Titans. It probably does not bode well for Mike Borgonzi.
Yeah, because he is next here. And I suppose with the move before Brinker even left, like that was kind of true, right? But I suppose you could have still, if you needed to find some accountability and things didn't go well next year, you could still target Brinker. And now you can't. He's gone. So it's all on Borgonzi now. And yes, if it goes bad next year, then it's like, well, clearly the team building hasn't been good, but you can't blame the coach after 1 year, and on the cycle goes. At some point, they need to not suck at football, or it's just like they're going to set a record for just like personnel upheaval. It really is an amazing thing. But not only if they pick that high, but if they pick who Brugler has them picking, I think that's also a bad thing for Mike Borgonzi.
Yeah. He had TJ Parker, by the way.
Last year?
Yep.
TJ Parker. There you go.
4th overall for the Titans, edge Clemson. He actually had Keldrick Falk going 6th to the Panthers.
Okay.
Well, if he would have had like 8-10 sacks last season, he might have been right, Well,
he's had Arch Manning, I think, 2 years in a row, going number 1.
Yeah. But now last year, that obviously that would make sense that this year you would take an edge high, right?
Sure.
And they did. But next year he's got him taking Dylan Stewart.
Yeah.
Who, by the way, is a tremendous prospect and
other than being coached by Shane Beamer, yes.
Excellent coaching he's been receiving. He's even getting better and better. But if the Titans, like imagine that, like the Titans, as we talked about for a long time, and Femi Oladejo was a 2nd-round pick, so it was still part of this, but for forever, they had not taken an edge in the 1st round, right? It was Javon Curse, right?
Yep.
I believe that's right.
Or Derek Morgan.
Yeah, Derek Morgan, 2010.
He was defensive
right.
line. I mean, I don't know if he was edge. He was more of a 4-3 guy.
But still,
defensive
that
end.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. It was Morgan. But, yeah, either way you count him as an edge. But imagine if they go 2nd round, 1st round at edge.
Right tackle all over again.
Well, it kind of is, isn't it? So you certainly hope if you're a Titans fan that 2 things are dead wrong. 1, that they're picking that high. 2, that their choice, wherever they pick in the 1st round, is an edge, because that means certainty. And you can't have certainty on Falk, right? So what that would mean would be basically certainty that the Oladejo pick was a total bust.
That, or you're just in a spot where it's like, well, this kid is clearly the best player left on the board at number 5. But yeah, I would agree with you. Like, I mean, that would also be a situation where like need would have to be factored in to some degree, I would hope. So,
and interesting here, Brugler in his 2026 way too early mock from last year, guess who he had going number 12? Anthony Hill Jr., linebacker,
All right.
Texas, 12th overall last
So
year.
what you're saying
Yeah.
is Borgonzi may have cooked in this draft, according to Dane Brugler's rankings from a year ago.
Well, or some of these players are just way worse than people thought they were. But
And looks like Tate was 13th.
Killing it.
not bad. Not bad. Yeah, I mean, Hill.
I got a lot of
going into
first rounders. A lot of first rounders in the draft.
I mean, last year, going into the season last year, there were people that were like Anthony Hill Jr. might be a Heisman candidate for Texas. Like Arch Manning's a Heisman favorite, but don't forget this guy on the other side, because of course they were going to go undefeated and win it all, and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So that's who the Titans. I mean, the Titans got a pretty good talent.
Liam says, does she have a quick trigger for moving on from people? Sure. But I still appreciate Amy. She wants to win. And if that isn't happening, your job isn't safe. Like Steinbrenner, win or you're out. Accountability over stability. This is from Liam on the text line. I like it.
Why can't you have accountability and stability?
Well, I mean, got to win. Who knows? Borgonzi could be here forever. Could be here for a long time.
That'd be great news.
It'd be a great development.
You're a Titans fan. You can sign up for that.
I would love the idea of 5 years from now, Borgonzi, Sala, and Ward all still being here. That would probably signal pretty good things.
Absolutely. If that's the case, then it's about to get good. It's about to get quite good.
615-737-1025, our phone number, 615-737-1025. A lot more on the Titans to get into. We'll take more of your thoughts on Chad Brinker stepping down. Dave Ziggler talked yesterday about the Carnell Tate selection. We will get into that. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Wednesday morning, presented by Green Ventures Landscaping for homes and businesses that want to stand out, not blend in. Visit greenventureslandscaping.com. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Paul Kuharsky from paulkuharski.com will be with us in the second half of the program. And we got a lot of things to get into with PK, including Chad Brinker stepping down from the Tennessee Titans. We have talked about that throughout the show so far this morning. Continuing to take your thoughts at 615-737-1025. They did have, Joe, one of the several members of the front office, Dave Ziggler, speak to the media yesterday as it comes to relates to the NFL draft. I did, I watched it. It was interesting. I thought one of the most interesting things that he had to say was in regards to the selection of Carnell Tate at number 4 and not Arvell Reese at number 4. And here is what Dave Ziggler had to say yesterday over at the Titans facility.
Did you see the process way out where you had Arvell Reese and Carnell Tate, both premium positions, but obviously Saleh, he's a defensive coach, but you got a top-level receiver. Like, how did that process work out?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, what you're looking for almost any time you're making a pick is you want to have a consensus as an organization on what the vision for the player is and how they fit, whether it be into your offense or into your defense, and what that looks like. And you want to have everybody have a good vision of what that is and feel comfortable with that vision is. And at the end of the day with Carnell, we just had a very good, I think there was a consensus vision on what he's going to do, where he's going to play, how he's going to fit in, and what he's going to bring to this team. So the fact that we were comfortable with that, I think led us to Carnell. And we're excited about what he does. He's a receiver that can win at all 3 levels of the defense. You see him stretch the field. I think the unique thing about Carnell too is for a guy that's 6'2", he's a guy that can separate in a short area. He can run the majority of the route tree. And so what that means is you get a player that can also be productive on third down. But then you have this catch radius and the size and big hands where you see him show up in the red zone. And so that's what I think is unique about Carnell is that a lot of times you get the bigger, taller, linear receivers. They're not really, they're more like, I call them first and second down guys. They're not productive on third down because they don't have the route tree to do that. Or you have a bigger guy that doesn't consistently play big at the catch point. Carnell checked a lot of those boxes in that way where we're feeling we're really getting a complete 3-down player that can contribute on these critical downs and these critical situations, third down in the red zone. And so for us, having that vision, seeing that consensus, he was a clear guy for us to take, and we were excited about it.
So a 3-down guy, Joe, that they feel like can play in every situation, which I would hope so. You're taking a receiver number 4 overall in the NFL draft. What did you make of Ziegler's answer there on the Tate over Reese discussion?
Yeah, but that was really good. That was really good stuff, I thought, because I hadn't thought about it in those terms. Like, on third and medium or whatever, it's like, okay, who's your slot guy? Maybe depending on what team it is, like who's your tight end? We got to move the chains here. And sometimes those outside guys are a little bit de-emphasized, whereas
the Rams throw the ball to Devontae Adams plenty of times on the outside. Like if you've got the right guy on the outside, like the Eagles throw the ball plenty to A.J. Brown on third down.
Yes, but sometimes the third and there are chain movers, and a lot of times with teams they are those other guys, and some of the other, some of the outside guys aren't as. Yeah, of course, you also throw the slot guys on first down too. By the way, but I get what he's saying though. Like in other words, he has short space quickness that isn't always part of the deal with long striding outside receivers, So, I thought that was interesting. Does that answer the question of like why he should have gone over Arvell Reese? No, but I still thought that was really good insight on how they view him as a player.
I think it's good insight on how they view him as a player. Again, the Reese thing is really interesting. What I would love to know is, how did the Titans view Arvell Reese? Like, is this a situation where they look at Tate and they say, this is a direct help to our quarterback? Because frankly, if you're in a perfect world heading into the draft, if you valued the receiver, like if you had them rated the same or roughly the same, whether it's Tate or the edge rusher, I would have gone with Tate from the standpoint of like it's direct help for your quarterback, which you just simply haven't done a whole lot of this offseason. I think the discussion point that we were operating under heading into the draft was, well, it doesn't look like many people have Tate graded that way, right? Like they don't have him the same as some of these other edge rushers. Well, clearly the Titans did. What I would love to know is that more of a commentary on Tate being available at number 4, or do they really just not have a whole lot of faith in Arvell Reese? Like if David Bailey's available at number 4, do they do the same thing? Like we'll never know the answer to that, but that's what I'd love to know.
Yeah, I would too. And the Reese, but then also in the equation, how much was just need? How much did need pull it, toward Tate? But yeah, I know you'd love to have the actual true evaluation of a guy like Reese, and I think if you had that for all 32 teams, you would definitely have some that are like, I would think, like pretty close to the top of my board.
Yeah.
And then some who are like, yeah, it's philosophical. Some teams are bigger on traits and some teams are bigger on production. And, probably the best teams marry the two effectively. But yeah, I'd love to know what the Titans thought. I mean, I'm guessing that they were a little bit more of the production thing, but then of course you say that and then you bring in Keldrick Falk, who has traits but not production, with your next pick. So,
is that why Brinker's out? He wanted Reese. They went Tate. That's the final straw.
Maybe it was a power struggle.
Could be.
I actually am pleasantly surprised that only one person has brought it up, and it was kind of in a joking way. I really thought there'd be a little bit of like, he knew something about Vrabel or something like that, which I can just imagine whose wheels must be spinning right now on that idea. But yeah, really none of that. So good job, guys.
Keith says, this is a new era for the Titans. We finally have a front office that knows what it's doing. Reese is going to be a bust. Tate's going to be a Hall of Famer. If I keep saying it, it's going to happen. That's from Keith on the text line.
I love your fake optimism, Keith. Keep it going, man.
One texter says, Greg Cosell said that Tate in college reminded him of Devontae Adams in college. Devontae ran a 4.56, later ran a 4.51. That to me is encouraging for Tate, actually rounding out into a solid number 1 in the league.
Yeah, if he's a Devontae Adams.
Tell you, if he's Devontae Adams, yeah, we'll take that now.
Yeah,
I would encourage you guys to
pretty well.
Devontae Adams legitimately might be the best route runner in the history of the game. Like, go watch it. It's unbelievable what he does. So I don't want to put Tate in that category. If he's close to that, I'll take it.
Right, but that is like, yeah, exactly. Like you're talking lofty comparison, but the route running aspect of it, and that is definitely something you see. Probably the most impressive stuff I've seen from Carnell Tate is just the change of direction, change of speeds, and at times just twisting defensive backs into pretzels.
I mean, it does encourage you from the standpoint of, and I think we talked about this yesterday. It's not like Devontae Adams is some burner out there. He's unquestionably a number 1 for a period of time. He was unquestionably, I guess maybe not unquestionably, he was one of, if not the top receivers in the league for, I don't know, a 4 or 5 year period. So if Tate is anywhere near that, I will take it as your number 4 overall pick. Look, we went through expectations and looked at first receivers taken in the draft yesterday. The more I watch Tate, I mean, the more I think you can kind of talk yourself into it, right? I mean, he does have physical tools that are good. The catch radius I like, the ability, the sure-handedness is probably what I like the most, even beyond the route running. Like the ability to, when he goes up and attacks the football, most times he comes down with it. When the ball hits him somewhere in the vicinity of his hands, he catches it. Like that's what I like the most about Carnell Tate is it wasn't like there was a whole lot of drops that he was dealing with in college. And if that tracks in the NFL, I think he's going to be a good player. I think you need him to be a great player. And that's what I think is going to take some time to figure out here as to whether or not the Titans have that.
Yeah. Texter. See, now we get in the negativity. What did Traylon Burke's college tape show? Well, actually, you want to go back? They showed him like taking short passes and ripping through the entire Alabama defense. I mean, it was pretty good, man. There's a lot of great college tape that does not translate to the NFL. I mean, there's no doubt about that. So,
And Traylor made a couple plays last year for Washington. I emphasize a couple.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a better
Didn't he
resurface.
Wasn't his touchdown? I need to go back and double check this. Wasn't it a touchdown catch that he caught? It was like Mariota to Burks. And I was like, what the heck's going on out here?
Yes. Yes. Someone asked, would you take a prime Calvin Ridley? Actually, I mean, I have seen the Ridley comparison to him, and Ridley is another guy who, although I think he ran better, but route running was a strength. Coming out of Alabama. So I mean, I don't think it's a terrible comparison. And by the way, yeah, go back to Ridley before all this stuff, and yeah, you'd take that player on your team.
Yeah,
you'd be happy with that player
for sure. Now, Ridley has, I say never. He had 1 year in Atlanta where he was really, really productive. I want to say without going back and looking, and I'll pull it up now, but I want to say it was like a 1,400-yard year or something, wasn't it? It was, 1,374 yards, 9 touchdowns. So, that's a 90-catch, almost 1,400-yard year in his third year in Atlanta. He's not really approached that since then, and, the expectation is he probably never will again approach that. Well, like when you're talking about Tate, I mean, that's the type of territory you need to be in on a pretty consistent basis at some point here in your NFL career. Doesn't mean you have to do it immediately, but at some point, putting up 1,300 yards in a season needs to be the expectation for your number one wide receiver in today's NFL with 17 games and the premium placed on passing the football.
Absolutely. I mean, there's there's no doubt about it. There was to the point of our conversation yesterday, and I'm not crediting correctly. I apologize. So whoever you were, but it was a trusted account tweeted out that this is the third instance since the merger of a QB number 1 and a receiver top 5 after it. Remember, we were talking yesterday, like how many times. Now, there's other times where maybe the receiver came first, or maybe the receiver is number 6. But do you know the other 2 times? We know one of them, which is Burrow and Chase.
I do not know the other one.
You know the other one. Okay. The other one is 02, Houston Texans, David Carr, 03, Andre Johnson.
One of those worked out very well.
Exactly. So 3 of the 4 of the previous 75% of the previous examples of since the merger. So it's a rarity. 3 of those 4 are going to be in Canton.
The other one, it's
the other one will
not. Didn't get killed out there with how many times
the other one, like Cam Ward was actually on a pace at some point last year to get up in that range. Was. So, but I guess if you're the Titans, first of all, you don't want to be the team that it was a 3 out of 4 success rate, and now it becomes 3 out of 6 because of you. Yeah. Also, I guess you'll probably take if even one of the 2 become that kind of a player, you'll take that.
It's surprising that has not happened more often.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's close to happened a lot, right? Like in different ways, but maybe there's one draft separating it, or the receiver goes 7th, or stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I was shocked too. Like only 2 other times previously.
615-737-1025, our phone number. More thoughts to get to on the Titans. We will take your thoughts on Carnell Tate, your thoughts on Chad Brinker stepping away from the organization. Kuharski will be with us in the second half of the program. All that coming up. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Celebrate Cinco de Mayo early with 102.5 The Game at Social Cantina in Germantown this Saturday. There will be music from 3 to 6, drink specials, giveaways, raffles, and a patio party vibes all day long. Grab your crew. Celebrate Cinco de Mayo the right way. That's Social Cantina. Welcome back in. Robby and Rexrode taking your thoughts at 615-737-1025. Joe, can't find my keys on the text line, which is what he goes by. He or she goes by. Thank goodness Chad Brinker is gone. Hated seeing him on press conferences with Borgo. Dude was a snake and a wannabe GM. The bad man is finally gone. This feels like the end of Return of the Jedi. This from Can't Find My Keys on the text line, Joe.
So wait, like the end, like when Darth Vader and Luke have their tender moment before Darth dies, or like the part
Spoiler
where
alert.
the Ewoks dance around and stuff.
Probably the Ewoks dancing over the death of the Emperor, who in the coming years would be revived.
And Han
In the
Solo's
newest
like,
generation.
Han Solo's like, oh, good, Luke and Leia aren't hooking up. They're actually siblings. Crap, sorry. That's a spoiler alert. I'm sorry, but like more than 40 years, like we can say these things, right?
I would hope so.
I mean, I can't worry about spoilers from 40 years ago.
No.
Interesting. Thank you for the text. Can't find my keys. Yeah, I don't know, man. My people might be a little bit rough on the old Brinkster there.
I mean,
But-
it's been some bad football.
It has been some bad football. It has. There's no doubt about that. Well, hey, again, do you believe in Borgonzi? Trust in Borgonzi. If you're a Titans fan, trust in Borgonzi. If that's the case, who brought him in? Do you not give tip of the cap? If you trust Borgonzi and you think he's good, then to me, I think we should all have an open mind, because I think there's some good things and there's
Sure.
some real questionable things, and there's a whole bunch of stuff to find out. But if you believe and you lean that way, you should be tipping the cap right now as Chad Brinker walks out the door.
Yeah, you should.
Are you?
I don't know. Judging by the text line, no. They're not.
Maybe it's the silent majority is actually very appreciative.
It could be. It could be. I mean, we talked about it earlier. The pattern is the interesting thing here. Now the question is, if the football gets better, which for the love of God, let's get it better around here. It can't get a whole lot worse. Like Corey Curtis said that the other day. I would tend to agree. I don't think you can get much worse. But if things are trending up, and we'll see what that looks like this year. I mean, hopefully you're not after next season having to worry about any sort of major organizational turnover again, right? Like you're not going to be talking about hiring another head coach. Hopefully we're not talking about hiring another GM. We're not talking about, replacing a quarterback at the end of next year. I know the quarterback, like personnel part of it's different, but it would be great to get through this season where enough progress is shown where it's like, okay, Borgonzi unquestionably is back. Saleh unquestionably is back. Ward unquestionably is back. And then you continue to try to build and go from there. But just think about it, Joe. Like, when's the last time they've had that? When's the last time you've had an offseason where it was like, yeah, the coach, the GM, and the quarterback unquestionably are back? I mean, you're going back to Vrabel, Tannehill, and Robinson.
And by the way, that's the offseason they traded AJ.
Yeah, exactly.
Which really is still like really where this all started, right? Like, I mean, that's when it comes down to it. That decision was like the little push of the boulder down the hill.
I mean, even like Rand's first year as GM and Callahan's first year as coach, it was like, I think those guys are coming back, but it was so bad that maybe not, right? Like heading into the offseason, it was like, I don't know, man. Like Callahan just went 3-14. Are we for sure he's back? And then he was. And by the first game the next year, it was like, this guy's cooked. He didn't even know the rules out there.
Yeah, maybe Saleh will set a record. He'll just have like the worst coaching performance in NFL history in week 1 in his first game with the Titans.
Pull a
like,
Hackett.
will he make it to Thanksgiving? Who knows?
I remember, I'll never forget when Hackett coached his first game for the Broncos, and Rexrode was just like, this guy sucks. They got to fire him. Man, I think, what did he make it? 10 games that year? 11 games?
That was one of my favorite and most passionate rants. I was like, I'm positive right now that he has to be fired. Like, that was the worst clock management in the history of football.
One text just says, I'm glad the Titans had Mandor blocking the door to try to keep Brinker in the building. Just let him ride around.
Oops, he's gone. No, there he goes.
I didn't know
Away.
Mandor was going to take a shot today on the text line, but that's
Poor
how it
guy.
goes. I know.
He's just trying
Just
to
working
lift
hard.
weights, get ready for the season, and he's catching strays. K Dot on the YouTube chat says best thing, which apparently it's only my big fat face on the YouTube chat. That's exciting. He says
I
best
screwed
thing
something up.
Well, I mean, like give the people what they want.
Yeah,
You know?
a
I'm
little bit more
I'm
Rexrode.
sure it's a wonderful viewing experience for them. He says the best thing Brinker did is get Borgonzi. The second best is leave.
That's
So,
true.
There you go.
That is
A
true.
little harsh. You guys are being a little rough on the Brinkster. By the way, I know that this does ruins Berserker, but we can still say Borgzerker. Okay, so I'm just going to keep it to. Well, I'm going to. We would like to know more Berserker. See, it works.
Oh man,
I don't know. That one might make me more nervous than the farts.
Yeah.
Just because if you've seen that scene, there's very few words you can say in that scene that are radio appropriate.
It's true.
Would you like to throw the rock, Berserker? See, you can change it.
He makes me so nervous every time. I think he loves it. I think it's what Rexrode lives for here.
I kind of do.
Yeah.
I kind of do.
All right, so let's throw it out there. Who's taking over as president of football operations for the Tennessee Titans? They do have a lot of people in house to choose from if they decide to go that way. But I think I'm going Wasserman. I think that's my vote.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that I still would I would if I was in that organization, if I was running that organization, if I own that organization. First of all, I would have like many amazing houses and ponies and a wonderful wardrobe of clothes because I'd have a lot of money. But I'd also worry about the optics a little bit about that, But again, it's just like, I mean, if you tack that on to everything else, it will be a continuation of the public reaction, media reaction will be at some level of, wow, okay. But also, the people, or I'd hope so, in your organization, and maybe he's the best person. That is possible.
Could be. Bryce, if you don't do a good job, I'm sorry, son. I'm gonna have to fire you. Just let that be known.
Stay in like the crappy guest house on vacation or something like that.
Are sports extra nepo? Do we feel like that's the thing?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably more. I mean, there's more of it than you think of in other. I mean, like the quote unquote family business, right? Like,
sure, mom and pop. That's kind of like the thing. Yeah. I
mean, it's public, so. But yeah, I mean, it's heavy, man. It's heavy. Certainly in the coaching profession. It's all over the place. And again, sometimes that can be someone who gets groomed in the business and is ready to go.
That's what we all talked ourselves into with Brian Callahan. Worked out great.
Exactly. And sometimes it's like, oh yeah, no, kid was born on third base and never should have been.
Brian Callahan was born for this opportunity. He was meant to be a head coach from the time he came out of the womb. And it didn't go so well.
Who is your daddy and what does he do?
He somehow turned his dad into a bad offensive line coach. That's incredible.
I can't wait for Atlanta's offensive line this year to just be like road graders out there.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, this is best. Bijan Robinson's going to run for 2,800 yards this year. It's unbelievable.
Are these the 1982 Hogs? Oh, my God.
615-737-1025, our phone number. Kuharski will be with us a little bit later in the program. Big news for Diego Pavia yesterday. We'll get into that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Wednesday morning. Taking your thoughts at 615-737-1025. Well, the Rex rant coming up here in just a few minutes at 7:45. Paul Kuharsky from paulkuharski.com will be with us in the second half of the program, which I guess starts now, the second half of the program. According to Rexrode, Kuharsky's already late. According to me, he's not yet. So we'll keep a monitor on that.
Well, I don't know. If he doesn't want to be serious, we're having some good conversation here. I thought he was serious. I guess he's unserious.
You weren't monitoring your tone very much.
Late night work last night from Kuharsky. Chad Brinker news came down. He had to get to work. Had to get to work out there.
Shed a few tears. Yeah, I want a pony, Liam McLeod. I want a pony. And thank you to Jess on the YouTube chat who says I'm always beautiful. Thank you.
Somebody has voted
I thought so too.
Nick Saban to be the president of football operations. Just let him run every sport in Nashville. So maybe that's an option for you. Hey, Saban, when you get done hiring the general manager for the Predators, just come over here and run the Titans too. That'd be nice.
I mean, football is kind of his sport.
There's that. There's that.
If he's going to help with some pro hockey, why not help a little pro football?
That is true. Diego Pavia, Joe, signing a 3-year deal with the Ravens. So he was supposed to go to the minicamp tryout this weekend, and before he even gets there, gets the 3-year deal, according to, I think Schefter was the first one to put that out there yesterday. What do you make of Pavia, who you lit the world ablaze yesterday on your Athletic article with people screaming back and forth about it in the comments?
Well, yeah, and 95% of them read the headline.
Did you know Joe writes for The Athletic?
Like, there were seriously, like, all these comments that were like, well, he doesn't even have an agent. I'm like, okay, all right. I don't know why I read the comments. I shouldn't have read the comments. Good for him. Now, someone asked earlier, I think Chip from Mount Juliet, about the 3-year deal. I mean, we'll get Kuharsky. It'd be great to have Kuharsky now. But
yeah, he's here now.
Oh, listen to that glorious voice.
Look, if you're not going to squash the 3-year deal, you're doing the exact same thing everybody was doing when they were saying that he didn't have an agent.
Hey, listen, jackass. I was just getting there. Yes, the 3-year deal is semantics from isn't everybody signing a quote unquote 3-year deal with the UDFAs?
Pretty much. I mean, you have to make the team.
Right.
And there's no guaranteed money in second year or third year, and he's got pennies of guarantee up front. I haven't seen it.
Right. But it's still, it is definitely still, obviously, a better situation than, go ahead and try out at the rookie mini camp.
Correct.
And look, I look at Pavia, and I look at the competition there, and I definitely think he's going to be QB3. At least be like their practice squad guy.
A QB3 in a league of that carries QB2. It's a tremendous job.
Well, no, and he might be QB2. I don't know. I mean, it's Huntley, right? Like Huntley's the competition.
That's the competition.
Who's been a Pro Bowl,
former Pro Bowler.
Yeah, exactly. That is true. He's been a Pro Bowler. No, I mean, I think it's a good opportunity. I think it's exactly the offense that I would want him in if I'm his agent, and so. It's a good development for him.
Don't you have an editor over there that says, Joe, every time something negative comes out about somebody related to Vanderbilt or Tennessee, your automatic default to write a big apologia for this guy has to stop?
No, actually, Paul, that's not what I did. I mean, I can read you some.
I read.
Yeah.
And
okay. Well, you don't read very well.
I thought you could scale it back. You could scale it back
to
75%, but you always have to take it the extra 25%. That makes it sound like a Vanderbilt fan shunned or like a UT fan shunned, which is what you do with every one of these articles.
That your reading comprehension sucks. I am sorry, and I feel bad for you. But no, actually,
you talk about his reading comprehension. He just used the word apologia. That's good stuff.
Yeah,
that's an Ivy League word.
I've never heard that word.
Well, maybe you ought to go look it up.
We don't need to talk like it's the 19th century. No, my editor, Mitch Light, was like, hey, you should write a
Mitch Light, who roots for what college program?
Right. So I guess that's what it is. Yeah. Nope. Nobody can be professional. It's just you got to. No, he said write a column about Pavia, so I did. And the column is this, Paul. It's 100% accurate. So let me say it to you right now. The people who think that all this crap, F the voters, whatever, is the factor here. The factor here is he was barely a prospect. Dane Brugler had him outside the top 300, but stupid people, even dumber than you, although you're really doing a great job right now of demonstrating your stupidity, think that like he was some prospect, significant prospect who's off the field issues knocked him down. That's a complete load of crap. He was barely a prospect. As I wrote, that's on him, some of the stuff he did. As I wrote, it's probably a good thing for him to be humbled, and he probably cost himself the difference between maybe going in the 7th round and where he is, right? I could buy that. But again, people are misunderstanding the situation as well. He came in second to Heisman. These off the field issues must have destroyed his chances. Like Shedeur, for example, right? Shedeur, who is the comparison, was a guy who was projected to be a 1st or 2nd round pick last year and clearly hurt himself, interviews, whatever it was. That's not this, but people want to equate those two things. That was the point of the column. I will read it slowly to you if you like.
I don't need it read. Again, I read it, but I haven't.
If you need a little help.
If
you need a little help, I can help you.
I think you and Mitch created a thing where he's being compared to Shedeur. I haven't heard anybody compare him to Shedeur. I haven't heard that anywhere. That's what I'd like to see in evidence. Send me some links to that.
No.
Send me some links to that where people are saying Pavia suffered the same fate as Shedeur.
Hey, Ian, do you have the audio clip that I emailed you?
Yes, I do.
Who's it from?
Can you play that now?
It is from Dan Patrick.
Pavia. I didn't know that. I didn't know that's who he was talking about.
Assume he's talking about
the message from the NFL is really clear. If you're not a can't-miss prospect, professionalism is not just valued; it's required, and that hurt Diego Pavia. Also, that
I didn't know he was talking about Pavia.
Most of your backup quarterbacks, if you check, are not short quarterbacks. Diego Pavia might be 5'10", but you start to look at what you did in your pre-draft meetings with teams. Shedeur Sanders fell to the 5th round.
I thought this was about somebody else entirely.
Field.
I didn't know this was
personality.
About Diego Pavia.
5th round. Pavia goes undrafted. He didn't have an agent, but you have Tebow, Cam Newton, Kaepernick, other examples of your backup quarterback being too much of a headline or potential for a headline. Pavia's being invited a tryout with the Ravens. He wasn't signed as an undrafted free agent. He gets to try out. Now, he's also friends with Johnny Manziel. That doesn't help. And you start to belittle Indiana football, Fernando Mendoza, Heisman night. Football moves on quickly. Yeah, you can just ask Johnny Manziel. It moves quickly.
I do think that his antics take him from 7th to non-drafted.
No, shut your mouth. I just dunked on your ass because he just made the Shedeur comparison on the Dan Patrick show. Kind of a big deal, Paul, who also perpetuated the he doesn't have an agent thing. That's why I wrote the column, because we have a bunch of people out here who are uninformed saying ridiculous things. And so that is the point.
Sounds
Thank
like
you
a tweet.
For contributing.
Sounds like a tweet. He has an agent that's been misconstrued.
And Pavia. He just made the Shedeur Sanders comparison. Right.
Diego Pavia. Going to be a heck of a watch this weekend in Ravens minicamp.
Can't wait.
Going to be good stuff. One texter says, buckle up, boys. Joe is defensive this morning. Fireworks between him and PK before the 3rd segment are at -180. I think we've already gotten there.
I'm not defensive. I'm offended. I'm offended by PK.
You might be offended, but you're definitely defensive.
One texter says,
I also just won, so shut up.
Joe's annual defending a player from the state of Tennessee against all the outside backlash.
He did not want Pavia to go at 11th overall, so I can't.
So wait, that. Am I a bigger homer for Tennessee or Vanderbilt? I'm a homer for both.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Well, the beat's relatively small. 2 schools.
Have you dried your tears about Chad Brinker yet this morning? Do we want to get into that?
We're going to get into that.
I imagine we'll give it more than the 3 minutes that left in this segment, or 2.
Really, about 30 seconds.
So you can't read. So you can't read or you can't count. Congratulations! This is just a fantastic display of your skills. Spurn. Thanks for coming in early.
Spurn.
We have the Rex rant with Joe Rexrode coming up next.
Good.
Where is he, by the way?
Where are you, Joe?
Over Pavia's
Parts
house?
unknown.
Parts unknown.
over at Pavia's.
615-737-1025. Our phone number. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game.
Sometimes he wakes up on the wrong side of the bed. And sometimes he's just, well, Joe.
Awkward moment. Let's do it.
This is the Rex Rant, now on Robby and Rexrode.
Yeah, I think I might have torn my labrum. I was really feeling old and tired yesterday as I did those 40-pound curls.
I think I might have torn my PCL doing leg curls.
Maybe the workouts need to be a little bit more, geriatric.
I think I am far too old.
Rexrode working out with a Richard Simmons video in front of him.
Let me show you what you're going to squeeze today. Your gluteus maximus.
Me kissing some ass?
She's at her home.
You got to hear him sing Olaf Berserker.
We would like to know more suck berserkers.
You owe the fans an apology. Go ahead. I give you time now to apologize.
All I know is I'm pathetic.
It's time for the Rex Rant here on the program, brought to you by Rapid Response Generators. Power when it matters the most. Check them out at rapidresponsegenerators.com. Paul Kuharsky in the building as well. Joseph, the floor is yours.
Should I pivot and just keep dunking on Kuharski, as people in the text line are saying? It's just too easy to dunk on him. Or do I stick with the plan? I think I'll stick with the plan. Kuharski's had enough. So let's talk about some things that that just come to mind to me today, okay? A sauerkraut sandwich, a kick in the groin, a parking ticket where you've been in a spot for 10 minutes, a door-to-door solicitor looking to sell you a security system, a big pile of bird poop on your car, an hour spent with Paul Kuharsky, a 1980s movie or show that comes back in the form of a terrible theatrical reboot, another app that you have to buy to watch your favorite team, a spam call from a bank seeing if you want to refinance, or a spam call from a painting company, a spam call from a roofing company, a spam call from a lawn company. These are things that absolutely nobody asks for, and for good reasons, but sometimes you still get them. And that's where we are today with the 76-team NCAA tournament that is now going to happen. It still needs to be approved by a couple committees, but it's going to happen. And it's not a huge shock. It was close to happening a year ago. Enough people caused enough ruckus that it waited a year, but they were always heading to this. And the thing about this, and this is for anybody who doesn't follow it closely, yes, it's been at 68, but this is the first significant jump since 1985. When it went to 64 teams, it went to 4 regions of 16 teams. It reached perfection, which is why here we are 41 years later, and the first real change is here. And it's just total trash. There's no reason to do this, no good reason to do this. A lot of people are going to say, oh, money. And I get that. Greed has helped make college sports a disfigured mess. But there's no guarantee that this will move the needle at all. You're going to have more TV inventory, but this does not in any way guarantee moving the needle on the next TV deal. And why would it? I mean, it's adding crap teams and crap games too early in the week. So it's really not a money thing. It's basically because a lot of these programs, these schools, these conferences just want more of their schools to participate because they feel, especially the power leagues, right, who run everything, they feel like, some years they get screwed over. And so by golly, that Georgia team that went 8-10 in the SEC just really needs to be in the NCAA tournament. It's a lot of disingenuous reasoning for this. The whole idea that Division I has expanded so much since 1985, and yet the tournament hasn't. Yeah, it's expanded at the lower levels in leagues where you only get one bid anyway. That doesn't mean a damn thing. It was needless. It's pointless. But really, I actually want to turn this to you three because I'm a loyalist. I'm going to be there with the NCAA tournament until I die. I don't think this will kill the tournament, which some people do. I don't think it's that deep. But I do think that you're messing with some of why the casuals like the NCAA tournament. So I need to ask the three of you, is this going to change things for you now that basically you've got to have your bracket done by noon on Tuesday or 11 a.m. on Tuesday, as opposed to midday Thursday when you could just kind of ignore those first 4 games?
How many additional games does this give us?
So what's this going to give you is it's going to give you, so we used to have 2 games, right, on Tuesday night, 2 games on Wednesday night. Now you're going to have 4 games Tuesday, 4 games Wednesday before you get into the regular stuff on Thursday. So, yeah, and
I still think people will do Thursday brackets where you just kind of ignore the play-ins, presume or just like pick the winner of that play-in game to do whatever. Don't you guys think?
Yes, that's what I do right now anyway. That's probably the way it would go. But you know what? I blame you and other slappies who allowed the college football playoff to expand from 4 to 12 for all this. What did I say at the time? You expand to 4, you expand to 12. It'll never be enough for these people. And now they're talking about 24 on the college football playoff. And all these conference commissioners, same people, looking around saying, well, I mean, heck, we're doing it in football. Why wouldn't we do it in basketball? Let's expand more access. It's never enough for these people. And that's what I blame.
Joe's doing the playoffs. Now, hold on a cotton picking.
Well,
second.
no, I first of all, I deserve to be yelled at on football. So I accept that. That could be a separate rant for you another day. I agree with you. But let's remember, like, this is the NCAA, and that is a separate college football playoff. And this stuff, this expansion stuff, they've been trying to do this way before we had a college football playoff. So,
but why is it happening now? Why have they been trying to do it forever, and now all of a sudden it's happening?
Well,
you said, it's been perfect.
Yeah, because they tried to. There were people who were trying to get it into the hundreds back when they compromised with the first four, which was what, 2010, I think,
right
2011. There, yeah. So they've been pushing it. So they got that, and it's been an annual damn thing that some people are trying to do this. I mean, Greg Sankey is one of the people out front on this. So you're right. There's some of the same people because it's the conference commissioners. I'm just saying this is its own separate thing that they've been trying to do for a long time, and it was inevitable that we're gonna get to this. But now it's like, okay, so then at some point we're gonna get to 96. What are we doing here?
I don't think it's gonna affect people watching it right now, but it does. Like, nobody wants this, right? Like, I don't want.
Right.
I'm tired of sports thinking that people want more access to the playoffs. Half the freaking league in the NHL makes the playoffs. We don't need more. Half the league, more than half the league in the NBA makes the playoffs. We don't need more. This is ridiculous.
And I've said this about baseball forever. Baseball made a huge mistake with playoff expansion. Baseball's beauty was differentness. The regular season was the most important. You play 162 to get one of the rare spots, and they have to go with this playoff expansion. It's bad. More inventory is not the way to go.
And yet and here we go. And I agree. Like, if football goes to 24, it's
the regular season's totally meaningless. Yeah.
And on that point, by the way, I'm totally with Greg Sankey. He's fighting like hell against it, and more of his coaches are like, oh gosh, well, so we could go 7-5 and maybe sneak in. Oh, okay, sure. I mean, it's like the NBA playing stuff, trash, unnecessary. You're right. It's just there's an overall epidemic of, well, if people care this much about the playoff, then why can't we just have more fans of more teams who are excited about it? It's like, at some point, do you give a crap about the integrity of, like, your sport?
Making the playoffs needs to mean something. Making the NCAA tournament needs to mean something. Get 100 teams in there. What does it mean?
And we're heading more top heavy with the NIL and everything anyway. So I don't. If it brought more Cinderella possibilities, that's what they could sell. But I don't think that's what it's bringing.
I don't think it will either.
Well, so that is real quick. That's Seth Davis, whose argument on behalf of this just blows my mind and actually makes me angry. That's his point. Is like, and we did, like, Ralph Russo did a thing for us, and he said, so here's who would have been this year. And yes, 3 of them are mid majors. So. And every mid-major coach, as Seth has pointed out, I mean, I talked to Casey Alexander about this. Like, I mean, is it give us more of a chance? Yeah, I'm for it. So, yeah, you will get in some more mid-majors, but you're still going to be 3-1, just brutally mediocre at best, power 4-5 teams that get in instead of them.
615-737-1025, our phone number. Paul Kuharsky with us for the next hour. We got a lot on the Titans front to get into with PK. We will do that. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, the game. Paul Kuharsky from paulkuharski.com with us for the next hour, presented by Sealmaster and Rapid Response Generators. Rapid Response Generators, power when it matters most. PK, Chad Brinker stepping down from the Tennessee Titans. We've discussed it throughout the show here today. So we were waiting for you to get in. I'm very interested to see what you have to say on this. You know, the power reshuffling in this organization has been extensive at this point over the last few years. You've gone from Vrabel to Carthon to Brinker to Borgonzi. You've got coaches hired and fired in between all those things. And now you've got Borgonzi running the show, and Brinker is now out. He put the statement out there where, you know, he's a personnel guy and he's looking forward to getting back into personnel somewhere. And it just kind of feels like he walked away from this. What's your read on Brinker stepping down, the timing of it all, and how the organizational structure either did or may have contributed to this?
Well, I mean, you know, he willingly took on that role. Seemed like, I guess it would have been pretty bold to quit in the moment when they said, hey, you know, we want the guy you hired to take the personnel stuff. The structural thing, you know, if they really believe in the structure as they set it up, where, you know, all of this stuff is too much for a GM to handle, and you have to have somebody dealing with all of the non-personnel stuff and have that off the GM's plate, be it facilities and analytics and research and development and all of that stuff, then they're going to need to hire somebody in that position. Joe was incredibly soft on the idea of it being Bryce Wasserman. I think if it's Bryce Wasserman, that would be really bad.
Why? Do you know that he's incompetent?
I didn't say he's incompetent, but
that was my only point, is that, like, we don't know. I just know that it would be publicly annihilated.
I just know that if you have somebody that's that close to the owner, then the front office divides into two camps. People who spend all day kissing that guy's ass to make sure that they're in, and there are already people that qualify in that realm. My number one job before my job responsibilities is to stay tight with Bryce Wasserman, and not do anything that Bryce Wasserman can report back is something that would upset the owner or other people who behind the scenes are like, can you believe how this thing is running? This guy is in power, might have some good qualities, but didn't climb the traditional ladder here, didn't do the work that we did, and are filled with resent over the way things became. And that is not a good functional way to order a front office. And I just don't think it's a healthy thing. At the times that the Titans have involved people or tried to involve people related to ownership or powerful people in the organization, it's never gone well.
That's a good point. You finally made a positive contribution to the show in 36 minutes. Yeah, congratulations.
You're welcome. So I think that is looming. And I also think this thing, like, the people they've hired to do things consistently haven't done them. Rand Carthon was hired to be the GM. He hires Chad Brinker, who quickly leapfrogs him. Brinker is empowered to hire the GM, and appears to do well with Borgonzi, who quickly leapfrogs him. How are they missing on people maintaining what they're hired for in such short order? This isn't like, well, 3 years later, we see that this guy, hey, he's a real overachiever and he needs to be higher up on the masthead. It's in a year. They're like, oh, this guy's better than the guy above him. We're going to vault him over him, which suggests to me they're just not doing it right. And it's a wobbly, unstable place. And so everybody
It
now is
suggests
like,
to me that Amy is easily swayed,
Yeah.
very easily.
it suggests to me now, like, okay, everybody's like, okay, well, now it's set, fine, which, is easy to say in April or May, but we need to see things going on. Again, I think Borgonzi's doing a good job, but I would urge people not to put a chef's hat on him or do all that stuff. Let's see some of this stuff play out before anointing him. I think now he's getting a lot of power. I think absolute power tends to lead to problems. It's good if there's a check, some kind of check on him. I'm not saying that Brinker was necessarily that, but it would be good if whoever gets that spot has some sway with him, which apparently Brinker had less and less. And Joe raised the point, and I'll bang the same drum. If you hate Brinker and you're excited by his departure and you're all in on Borgonzi, well, Borgonzi's not here without Brinker.
And Brinker's not here without Rand.
It all goes
You
back.
forgot that part, Rand hater.
It all goes back.
This thing's got to die. It's got to
No.
Our one last day.
Yeah.
It's
If today's the
Borgzerker
last
now.
day. That's good.
It's
It was
gone.
never good, and now it's worse than it's ever been.
It's good.
It is good. Thank you, Ian. Yeah, we Team Berserker here. So how important, PK, is there's so many angles of this, but how important is this job? This job that is now open, because we know Borgonzi's, it's his team. It's been his team. We know he has a ton of dudes. I mean, I thought we played some of Dave Ziegler's presser yesterday. I thought it was pretty freaking good. I mean, that's what it's about. Get good football players and win football games. These massive corporate structures, when it's really just about, can you pick good football players and pick a good football coach and win games, or no? But there is a lot, I think, that goes with the job that Brinker eventually got kicked up to. So how important is that? Is this higher? I mean, I don't think this news really moves the needle in the NFL, other than it's just more upheaval for the Titans. But is this an important thing for the organization?
Well, I think it's an important thing for the organization in that the way they sold it was, this is stuff that Borgonzi's not going to have to do while he focuses almost entirely on personnel. And so he's not going to do research and development, and he's not going to worry about the analytics or the salary cap or facilities and stuff like that. Now, you could maybe make the case that the head of facilities will take care of facilities and the head of analytics will take care of analytics. But all those people need to report somewhere. And if they're reporting to Borgonzi, then he is technically in charge of that. And if he's reporting to somebody in Brinker's role, then it really isn't his, so to speak, or it's his on a very, on a much less full level. And so I think that makes sense. I think they've sold that relatively well, but you've got to have a guy that's into it. And Brinker, if we're believing what's said, and that's the evidence I'm getting, suggests that's real. That's the other place they put themselves in. It's hard to believe what they say on these scrambles because they're so damn frequent.
I totally agree. Let's head back to our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Adam in Portland to the program. Adam, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Hey, Robby, man. You know where he lost me? So I can remember the exact moment that he lost me is when he come out and said, I read Moneyball, and let me tell you what it's about. And I'm like, no freaking way I want this dude anywhere around my football team. It's the same feeling I had when Brian Callahan's in practice, and he goes, what is it with you guys throwing people out of practice? I've never even heard of that. That's where he lost me. Like, these guys, it doesn't mean they're bad people or that they don't have some type of skill, but you can, like, people's true colors and their actual skills start to show up when you, at little moments. And mine was the Moneyball thing with him. I really know what he did. And even sitting there watching Carnell Tate go through and, like, talking to different people when he got drafted, were they going to hand the phone to Brinker and be like, hey, this guy works here too, and he wants to talk to you? Like, no, of course not. So we Yeah, I think it was a good move. I think Titans got better.
Again, appreciate the call. PK,
I don't know that him talking or not talking to a draft pick is relevant there. It's showing you why he may not want to be in this job anymore, because he'd like to be on the phone with the guy.
well, another thing you pointed out at your website, what do you think this means for Reggie McKenzie in the aftermath of all this?
I mean, I just think it's a fair thing to watch. Perception is that when they brought those two guys in, Ziggler and McKenzie, that McKenzie was Brinker's and Ziggler was Borgonzi's. And so has McKenzie, been absorbed into being a Brinker guy, being a Titans guy, or was he Brinker's guy?
Yeah.
If he's regarded still as Brinker's guy, then you could see the potential for him to maybe move on as well. So I think that'll tell us a little bit about how much they've melded everything together over there and how much maybe there are camps.
A lot more to get into with PK coming up next. 615-737-1025, our phone number. 615-737-1025. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game, taking your thoughts at 615-737-1025. Paul Kuharski with us here on the program from paulkuharski.com. Let's head back to our phone line. Welcome in Ed in New Jersey to the program. Ed, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Hey, good morning, guys. So I'm trying to follow the the days of our Titans here, and I can't remember what season or episode, but when Ziggler got hired, Paul, you're saying that was definitely a Borgonzi move, and that was not a prearranged marriage, because I thought it happened real quickly, like at the same time almost.
My recollection and perception is that he was Borgonzi bringing a lieutenant.
Okay. Yeah, it just doesn't appear to me like, if I'm Borgonzi, I leave that well enough alone, even if it was prearranged, because it seems like if you bring in like a true mentor or mentee, whatever it is that you could to be mentored, that person is just going to be your replacement in this organization. It's so toxic. So even if it is inherited, I just don't think a Ziggler is like, that Borgonzi is going to mentor Ziggler. I mean, it could be the other way around based on experience, but I don't know. It just seems like maybe that's the safest spot, is just leave well enough alone.
Yeah. I don't think I wasn't suggesting Ziegler's in trouble potentially. I was suggesting that McKenzie, who is more of a Brinker guy, could be. But I do think, my impression all along has been that both Brinker and Borgonzi really like this stacked up, heavy, loaded top of the front office, which is Ziegler, McKenzie, and Sagany, who came from Cleveland a year later.
Well, I think the question I have in the aftermath of all of this, and we've talked about the idea of stability forever, it seems like now with the Titans. And I agree with you. I think Borgonzi is doing a good job. We talked earlier in the show of, like, there's a lot, if you're a Titans fan right now, that you could point to in terms of hope moving forward. So, my hope is you get to the end of next season and they've improved and they've won 7-8 football games and Ward's taking a step forward. And there's no question that the coach is coming back next year. The general manager is coming back next year. The quarterback is coming back next year. Having said that, that's just not been the way it's been around here for a long time. So, like, one of the questions I have after this is, all right, well, this structure keeps changing. People falling in and out of favor with Amy Adams Strunk all the time around here. Is Borgonzi next if things don't go significantly better this next season? So,
right. She's always got a favorite, and there's always somebody that is not the favorite. And right now, they're down to 2 spots. And whoever gets hired, presuming somebody gets hired for this president of football operations spot, which they've sold as vitally important. That's the biggest question to me. They sold it as vitally important. Did they sell it as vitally important to create a spot for Chad Brinker, or did they sell it as vitally important because it's vitally important?
Right.
If they don't hire somebody in that spot, then they were BSing us. If they do hire somebody in that spot and think it's vitally important, then I don't think it's going to be one of these personnel guys, because they all want to be in personnel. So are you going outside to find somebody and letting Borgonzi hire somebody for that? That would tell me, yeah, it's vitally important. Are you promoting the son-in-law into that? That would tell me you're, I don't know, not as serious about it as I'd like you to be.
That it's more of a ceremonial position. That is definitely one of my big questions. Also, and I think if they do go out and hire a significant person for that job, I guess it would be easier for me to totally buy how this all went down. Because obviously with this organization, when things like this go down, people immediately think about, okay, so what's the real story? I mean, I'd be easier for me to buy it. It's just as simple as Brinker was in personnel most of his career. Things happen in Nashville. He ends up outside personnel. He wants to be in personnel. Some people PK throwing out, well, not many people, thankfully, but there is the, did he know about, playlists and Vrabel and whatever? Okay, that's pretty
nothing to do with Vrabel.
Right.
Nothing.
But the other one that, like, Greg Rosenthal tweeted, like, lost the power struggle with Mike Borgonzi. I mean, I think if that were the case, that, I guess that had already happened if that was even a thing.
Yeah, it was a year ago. I mean,
is there any chance that's a fair way to characterize it, or is it more just that Amy picks and chooses what she wants to do with people, and some people fall out of favor, some people fall into favor, and they're not really actively doing anything. She's just making those choices.
Well, I mean, look, there's contractually, I can't remember what the official title is, but there's a primary football exec. I think that's it. Primary football executive. And we were saying, like, when they were searching for Mike Borgonzi, like, why would somebody come here if Chad Brinker has the final say? And I found that language in an NFL document about the primary football executive. And Mike Borgonzi was technically the primary football executive from the get-go, which actually gave him final say on personnel. So the contractual documentation and what the Titans said was their structure were actually kind of conflicting, which is another part of why the league views the Titans as kind of overly complicated and whatever. So when it became official, I think part of Brinker's attitude was like, this is inevitable.
Yeah.
This is not a big surprise to me. And it's the way it should be. Now, is that him being a good soldier? Apparently, because he covets personnel. But where does he wind up? Is he going to go? I would think he winds up with one of these jobs like Ziggler and McKenzie and Sagan have now for somebody.
Back to Green Bay, down there in Miami.
I think Green Bay did lose John Eric Sullivan.
Yep.
Have they filled in that?
Honestly, I don't know. It's a good question. I don't think so. Or maybe they promoted from within. That's what they do. I think they may have promoted from within. So maybe he ends up back there in some capacity. We'll get into the NFL draft and what the Titans have done with PK coming up next. Take your thoughts, 615-737-1025. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Robby and Rexrode presented by Green Ventures Landscaping. Property managers, if you manage it, they maintain it. Visit greenventureslandscaping.com. Paul Kuharsky with us here on the program. So, PK, what do you make of how the Titans came out of the draft here with Carnell Tate going at number 4? They trade back into the first round. They get Keldrick Falk. You go back into the second round at the back part of it, come away with Anthony Hill. They don't take interior offensive linemen until later in the draft. And we talked about that situation heading into it. But so overall, from Tate to how they handled offensive line to maybe not handling cornerback the way some expected heading into it, what do you make of the Titans and what they did in the NFL draft?
I mean, overall, it seems promising. A lot of potential there. Have some questions about Hill in coverage, which is the number one thing you need out of off the ball linebacker, and they're playing him off the ball. I asked Dave Ziegler yesterday about the potential for Hill, who was a very good pass rusher as a linebacker in college, to play as a pass rusher, and they're not intending to do that. Would have liked to seen more of an emphasis on the offensive line. I don't want to say they're being cavalier about it, but I think they've got great expectations for some guys who don't necessarily warrant them based on what they've done so far, but that doesn't mean that they can't find production out of guys with upside who are reaching a point where they should take off. And that's, more Schlottman and Volson and Slater. I love Pat Coogan. He'd be my number one guy rooting for in this class because he's got all of those intangibles and he'd be a phenomenal talker and all of that. But if you look at some of the tape, I mean, physically, can he do it? They're relying a lot on toughness. Ziegler said something interesting about him yesterday in that he will reach his potential. Now, is his potential starting center, right, or is it, a swing backup is what's to be determined. I did think Jackie Marshall and you're in the 6th round, you're looking for traits, and they saw some pass rush in him. But at a certain point, you got to stop with the defensive lineman and address some other things. So I was surprised there wasn't a defensive back in this class. Only the 3rd time in the Titans era they didn't draft one.
I don't know if you were listening earlier, PK, but this is the 3rd time since the merger that a quarterback has gone number 1, followed by the next draft, a receiver going in the top 5. So first of all, do you know the other 2?
I was listening.
Okay. So second of all, what is that? We didn't need that. We didn't need that little trivia question to answer the question, but what does that tell you about, what does all of this tell you about Cam Ward, Carnell Tate, and fair expectations in the next few years for them together?
Well, look, on the one hand, out of a normal draft, you would say if you're drafting a receiver 4th overall, he's got to come in, be the best receiver on your team for a long time. And I would still say the same thing about Carnell Tate. I don't think he's as good as a lot of guys who might have gone number 4, who maybe went number 7 or 8 or 9 in some recent drafts because there were some quarterbacks, higher or more defensive players of intrigue or more left tackles of intrigue. He can be very good. I mean, the question is, can he develop into more of a yards after catch, yards after contact guy? And the Titans believe that he can. But I think you need that in to be one of the league's very best wide receivers. I don't know that you need that to be the best Titans draft pick receiver of the Titans era. A.J. Brown certainly had it. You can be better than A.J. Brown in different ways by catching some balls deeper, contorting your body, going up and making high point contested catches and the like. And so I'm going to be optimistic about the guy. I think he's a heck of a player. And I think this was a down draft. And whoever they took at 4, barring Jeremiah Love, probably we'd be having a conversation. Bailey and Love.
Oh, Bailey and Love.
Bailey
yeah.
and Love, we wouldn't really be having tough conversations about. Everybody else, there was some kind of hole or downside that we would be talking about them not being as supreme a player, as questionless a player as you would want to get it for, and as you would expect in a regular draft.
Do you get the sense that it was Bailey, Love, Tate, and that maybe they didn't give a ton of consideration to Reese at number 4?
Yeah. I think there were concerns about Reese, like not definitely an edge rusher. And if he's not an edge rusher, then he's a guy, who needs to be moved around a lot. And the Titans aren't necessarily looking to move guys around a lot. They're kind of a more straightforward front.
But see, I disagree. I mean, the tough conversation with Love would be the same thing that I'm trying to get at with Tate, which is, I mean, I hear what you're saying. There are some years where certainly he wouldn't go there, just like there's some years Cam Ward didn't go there. But the bottom line is they did go there. And so the tough conversation with Love would be what we said before, which is, okay, well, if you're going to take a running back there, and you're going to immediately make him, and this is the difference with him and Tate, you're going to immediately make him one of the highest paid at his position with some of the most guaranteed money at his position in the NFL. He needs to be not just good, really good. He needs to be one of the great backs in the league, one of the best offensive weapons in the league. And to me, Tate, of course, the evaluation says he's not Jamar Chase, and I don't think that's a fair. He's not Jamar Chase or some of these guys. He's not Jeremiah Smith, who's coming out next year, but he needs to be a great player, right? I mean, is it not that simple at 4?
Yeah. You need to get a great player at 4. I think the odds of Jeremiah Love being a great player are probably better than Carnell Tate being a great player, having come to terms with the idea that you're setting positional value aside. I was kind of presuming we were doing that.
Yeah. How concerned are you from the standpoint of lack of production from Keldrick Falk? I mean, he is 20. He's very young, but you're talking 2 sacks last year.
2 sacks with 30 pressures.
Yeah.
So he's around the quarterback a bunch, and he's not getting him to the ground. Why? And he talked a lot about, I'm not low enough, not taking on the quarterback low enough to get him to the ground. He did have a better year the year before, 7 or 9 sacks, 7 sacks. So he's got better in him, and he's certainly got the physical characteristics you want. Look, Tate, you can make a more reasoned explanation for why he didn't come out with huge numbers. Start with Jeremiah Smith. Robert Saleh said, hey, it's not his fault that Ohio State's in a lot of games where they're shutting it down at halftime. Everything's got its own set of circumstances, and you can see Tate's more clearly than you can see Falk's. Nevertheless, it sounds like, most of the league thought Falk was, an 18 to 22 level player, and the Titans get him at 31, which is a pretty great value. But certainly he's not fully developed. And so it's funny, a lot of these guys in this draft are closer to fully developed at 23, 24, even 25. The Titans in their first 3 have, 21-year-old to 20-year-old to 21-year-old who are younger and have more upside for the Titans to develop them, and their coaches have to get to work and see to it that they are developed.
So you've got a second round edge, you got a first round edge, first one since Derek Morgan. And as we've just talked about, you got Ward to Tate. If you took those 2 combinations, PK, you took Ward and Tate in back-to-back years, you took Oladipo and Falk. Which of those 2 pairings are you more confident in living up to their draft positioning at this point?
I think Ward and Tate. I mean, I don't think between Oladejo, who's converting and had a very limited first year, he hasn't proven that he can do it yet. And Fox production is a big concern. If I'm spending, what was Oladejo, like 54?
Yeah, in that neighborhood.
If I'm spending 54 and 31 on 2 pass rushers, and we're going into the second season for the first and the first season for the second, I would like to feel a lot better about, like, I know what I'm getting here.
52, by the way,
from the edge, 52. Yep. I would like to feel a lot better about, I know what I'm getting here and what exactly the upside is. I think with Ward and Tate, I mean, it's not like there aren't question marks about Ward, but we saw him ascending as the season ended in bad circumstances. And now he's got, a lot of balls dropped on him last year. Wan'Dale Robinson doesn't drop passes. Carnell Tate doesn't drop passes. Has another new back in the mix with Nick Singleton, who could break away some. And then it all circles back to the target spots that we're going to point at over and over. With those 2 offensive line spots. And I wrote, I'll retweet it shortly, they got 16 padded practices in training camp to sort out those 5 guys for those 2 spots. That stuff's going to go by in a flash.
Yep. 615-737-1025, our phone number. One more segment with PK coming up next. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Final segment of the day, Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Paul Kuharsky with us here on the program, taking your thoughts at 615-737-1025. PK, you mentioned Singleton coming in. What do you think that means for the running back room? And I guess specifically we've talked a lot about Spears. What do you think that means for Spears with Singleton coming in? Even though it's not a high pick at the running back position.
Yeah, it could mean bad things. I need to see him get out there and run. He seems like a better one cut and go guy because he doesn't have great vision and he does have great speed. And that's not what the Titans are designed to do run wise. But again, Ziggler said yesterday, Brian Daboll's very good at getting guys in position to do what they do. And so if that turns out to be what Nick Singleton does best, they'll find opportunities for him to do it. So look, if he comes in and he's good, I think they'll find him opportunities. A lot of teams find opportunities for three guys. I think it tends to dilute rhythm. And so I'd get more in a hot hand situation. But I could see him taking carries away from not only Spears, but Pollard, who, sometimes feels washed. Now, it also circles back to the offensive line and what kind of blocking they're providing. But on the chances that you get through that first level, Singleton's the best of those guys in terms of being able to get you more if you don't have to shake a lot of people. And maybe the best pass catcher. I know we tout Spears on that a lot, but he hasn't made the most of his opportunities, and I think Singleton will get a chance to do that.
What's your concern level with the offensive line, and did Dave Ziegler ease any of those concerns for you yesterday?
Well, he talked about still potentially bringing somebody in. I think, I talked about the 16 padded practices. They got to get the guys they have and give them a chance to show what they've got and sort through that. So if you're bringing in another guy, I think you're quickly making a decision that you don't have enough. And I think if you're making that decision that you don't have enough, the tone I got was that the Kevin Zeitler stuff was probably remaining on hold. So if Zeitler's still out there and you go 2 weeks into camp and you really don't feel good about it, then maybe. But I've got a concern level. I don't think Carmona and certainly Coogan are likely to be opening day starters. So I think you're looking at some combination of Schlotman, Volson, and Slater. And I think, maybe we're underselling Volson in particular because he didn't play last year. So if he was coming here last year off of what he'd done with the Bengals, he was a mid-level starting guard. Well, that's not ideal, but what we said about Carmen Brasillo right off the gate was that he was a guy that should be able to put together a line that had a couple first rounders, a fourth rounder, and a couple other pieces, which is what he's going to be presented with here.
So they've wrapped up the big part of free agency. The draft's over with. So this is by and large what their team's going to be heading into next fall. What kind of team are we looking at here, you think?
Yeah, I do think some people ask me like how many guys on the roster do I think are here? And I said probably 50 out of 53. I would move a little bit off of that now. I do get the sense look, I've been told 60 draftable guys that didn't come out were gone. So that's 2 rounds of people, right? You're being awfully hopeful thinking undrafted guys are going to make your roster. And so I think they'd more like to fill in some of those spots with guys that have some experience. So who was it? Elam last year, who wasn't good, but it probably rates as better than an undrafted free agent. So I think you'll see people filtered in like that at some point for bottom depth spots. You're more likely to see a guy, say 2/3 of the time, who's played some in the league than an undrafted rookie who it's hard to get up to snuff.
You didn't answer Robbie's question. Is this
Sorry.
a good football team, Paul?
Better. I think it's a lot of work's been done on the floor. I don't know so much about the ceiling. And the floor was really low, and it needed a lot of work. So I think the floor's up. I'm not giving you a win total, but it's going to be, I would think, significantly better than 3 wins.
Yeah, I would agree. I would say, when you factor in also in this, as I've talked about the whole time, there needs to be individual growth from year 1 to year 2 with the quarterback. That by itself should take care of some of this, right? When it comes to the floor that you're talking about. But they've done a lot of work on the defensive side of the ball. They've got a good foundation there on the defensive side of the ball now. The part about the defense beyond the 2 edge rushers that we've talked about that concerns me is, like, they get one injury right now at corner, and they're in deep trouble at corner, which concerns me.
They have some thinness problems still at some spots, and I'm not a big believer in Marcus Harris without competition or Tony Adams without competition. But they have stocked that defensive front so much, if they can't get to the passer with 4, they've overestimated some people. So I think they've got an identity there. Yeah, that starts with the defensive line.
Do you expect Hill to be a day 1 starter?
Yeah. Hill and Gray as the top 2 linebackers. If he's not, it's only a matter of time before he replaces Barton, I would think.
Going to be interesting to see how it plays out. PK, very busy week this week. Thank you for being with us.
Good to be with you, boys. Don't block the box, and be sure to lock your locks.
That is going to do it for us today here on the program. We'll be back at 6 a.m. tomorrow. Charles Robinson will be with us for his weekly visit tomorrow here on the program from Yahoo Sports. Looking forward to that. We'll have you cover the rest of the day here, reacting to Chad Brinker stepping down with the Tennessee Titans. Next Man Up with Jake Lyman is coming up next. You're listening to 102.5 The Game.